Welcome to the Beginning Band COVID Companion, Distance Learning for Band. There are just a few more things we need to talk about before we play our first actual notes on the clarinet. And one of those things is talking about what our hands need to be doing. It's a very important part of clarinet playing. The first thing I want you to do is get rid of all of the tension in your shoulders and let your arms and hands just relax to the side. Go ahead and get rid of all of the tension in your shoulders, and what you'll find is that when you hold up your hands, they will have naturally formed these C shapes that are very relaxed. This is how we want to have our hands when we're playing the clarinet. Any additional tension that we put into our hands is going to cause you a great deal of pain, and we don't want that at all. Another unique part to the clarinet that our saxophone friends don't need to worry about is that your instrument has holes in it. That means you don't just need to press the right key down, but you actually need to clog the holes with your fingers. So something we need to talk about is the pudgy part of your finger. We don't play the clarinet with our fingertips. We play with the pudgy part of our finger. And we clog the holes of our clarinet with that extra fatty part of your finger. Anytime that we try to play a note with the holes partially covered, this instrument is going to squeak badly. So when you're learning your first notes, make sure that the holes are completely clogged with the fattiest part of your finger. And that, by the way, also goes for the hole in the back when it comes to your thumb. If you press really hard on the back thumb, you should see a circle form in the center of your thumb. That way you know that you're doing it right. When you play, you don't want to press hard, but that is a way you can check if you're putting your thumb in the right spot of the hole. We talked about what to do when we're putting our fingers down on the clarinet, but what we haven't talked about yet is how high we need to pick them up in order to play the right notes. Sometimes we don't use all of our fingers, we're just going to use some of them. We don't want our fingers to go very far away from our clarinet, but we do need to unclog the hole. So when you do take your fingers off of the clarinet, just imagine a string is attached to your knuckle and it's very gently tugging your finger up. There's no need for your fingers to be flying all over the place. If you think about it, it really makes sense. What's easier to hit, a nearby target or a far away target? Obviously, it's easier to hit the nearby target, and that's exactly what you're setting yourself up for by not letting your fingers go too far away from your clarinet. Your left hand will always go on the upper joint of your clarinet, even if you're right-handed. Your right hand will always go on the lower joint of the clarinet, even if you're right-handed. Let's talk about your left hand first. Your left hand thumb needs to be at about 30 degrees angle. If you don't know what 30 degrees looks like, just imagine that your thumb is not exactly at noon on a clock, but rather it is set to about 1 o'clock on the back of your clarinet. So it will need to be able to cover the hole, but also be at about 1 o'clock to be able to press this register key if it needs to. So again, not straight up and down, not horizontal, but at about 1 o'clock angle. The next three are very easy. Your index finger, middle finger, and ring finger will simply clog the holes of the upper joint. Lastly, our left pinky will need to be able to switch between any of these four keys right here. Don't press them down yet, but just rest them on top so that they don't go flying too far away. Another thing that our index finger needs to be able to do is to be slightly angled so that your index finger can hit your A key, if you can see that I'm pressing this key right here, without having to pick up and push down. We don't want that. We just want to be able to tilt our knuckle and hit that A key when we want it. So when you're setting up your 3 tone hole fingers, make sure that your knuckle is able to hit this A key over here as well. Next, let's talk about your right hand. First, we'll talk about your right thumb. The weight of the instrument is supported on this thumb rest on top of your right thumb. Don't put it right above your fingernail, don't put it right on your knuckle, but somewhere in between will be the most comfortable for you. Now, this might be a little bit sore for a while, but as long as you're not holding onto your instrument with too much tension, that pain will go away very soon. The next 3 fingers we should talk about are your index finger, middle finger, and ring finger, called 4, 5, 6, and these just go to clog those same tone holes just like the other 3 fingers did on top. Also, our right pinky needs to be able to switch between these 4 keys right here, often called the 4 square keys. Another thing that your index finger needs to be able to do is hit this E flat side key on the upper joint without having to pick up your finger and press it down. So just like your left hand needed to be able to press the A key up here, your right hand needs to be able to press this E flat side key right here. So when you set up the fingers that go over your tone holes, make sure that you can bump the E flat key with your right knuckle. The first note that we're going to learn is called C. C is going to require that you press down your left thumb on the circular hole in the back, but don't bump the register key yet. We will clog the first, second, and third holes, and we don't need to bump this A key up here yet. You'll just cover the first 3 holes all the way. Your right hand doesn't need to do anything yet for C. We're just going to leave our fingers just barely above the holes so that they don't have to move too far away. Let's go ahead and try your very first note. See if it sounds like mine. Let's talk about some of the sounds that may have just come out of your instrument. One of the primary problems when you're playing one of your first notes is that you have either too much reed in your mouth or not enough reed in your mouth. So let's find out exactly where that's supposed to be. This is called the paper trick. I'm going to insert carefully, not to break the reed, the paper in between the reed and the mouthpiece. There is a point where it won't go any further because the reed is actually touching the mouthpiece. That is the exact line where I want my bottom lip to touch that reed. It's also the line where I want my top teeth to be resting on top of the mouthpiece. So I'll take a look, maybe save that spot with my thumb, remove the mouthpiece, and much better. If you're ever playing and you noticed that there's not actually a note coming out, but you just hear really fast air, this can be one of several different problems. Those 3 problems might be that maybe you have a little bit too much mouthpiece in your mouth. Another problem might be that the reed might be a little too stiff and we might need to go to a softer reed, or maybe if your clarinet private lessons teacher has already taught you how to sand your reed, you can do that too. Another problem could be that you not having gentle pressure from your bottom lip on your reed from your jaw. Definitely don't overdo that pressure. That's called biting. But there does need to be some gentle pressure. So try again with a flat chin that's pointy. Much better. Sometimes your note might be a little dead or a little stuffy or a little flat. If that's happening, you might need a new reed. Also, you might need to just simply increase the intensity of your airflow. So take a big deep breath and squeeze your abs to give it just a little bit more support. It could be that the reed is just too old or maybe just a little bit too soft. If your clarinet private lessons teacher has already taught you how to clip the reed, then you can do that. But otherwise, you just might want to get a new reed. Next, let's talk about squeaks and squeals. Gross. Here are some ways how you can fix that. One most common problem that is causing those nasty squeaks is a lazy chin. Remember, it needs to be stretched down when you say ew, and you have a pointy chin when you play. If you fix that, it solves most squeaks right away. Another problem is that you might just have too much mouthpiece in your mouth. So if you take a little bit mouthpiece out, it might squeak just a little bit less. And another problem that you might be having is that your reed is just a little bit too hard. If your private lessons teacher has taught you how to sand your reed already, you can go ahead and try that. but otherwise you just might need a new reed. Sometimes you play with a stopped tone. If that's happening, what you might be doing is what's called biting your reed, meaning that you just have too much jaw pressure coming upward. Another problem is that you might not have enough mouthpiece in your mouth. So just put a little bit more mouthpiece in when you go to play, and that could solve the problem. Another cause of that problem could be that lazy chin again. If your chin has become bunched up, it might be stopping your note altogether. So again, stretch down that pointy chin and try again. Much better. Now that you have figured out exactly what to do with your chin, exactly how much mouthpiece to put in your mouth, and you've got a perfect reed setup, it's time to start playing some long tones on your instrument and try to interrupt them with your tongue like we did on the mouthpiece. So think, ooh, two, 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 so that the top of the tip of your tongue is touching the top of the tip of the reed. That is how you're going to want to start all of your notes in band. It'll be a clean, articulate start to your notes. Practice that a lot. Practice it with just your mouthpiece and practice it on C like I taught you, and you'll have a great head start in terms of band class.